When President Donald Trump announced that the United States will recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital city, WION read out the lines, and no other media focused on that. The U.S. president had also stressed that there was no quote-unquote final decision on the disputed boundaries and divided nature of the holy city. Most media coverage foresaw unmitigated bloodshed emanating from the announcement. We at WION sensed something else, that the unpredictable U.S. president was actually opening a window of opportunity to the Islamic world. It's happening again. And senior foreign editor Padma Rao brings you WION's exclusive reading of the emergency conference held in Istanbul earlier this week. Take a look.
It was a meeting waiting to happen. Few eyebrows were raised when Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan earlier this week called for a one-day emergency meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, in Istanbul to come together to jointly oppose United States President Donald Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. After all, both the Islamic world and Israel have claimed the city as their own, even though three of the world's oldest faiths have some of their holiest shrines there. The lead was taken by Mr. Erdogan, and he made all the expected noises. He spewed fire and thunder at the Israelis and the Americans and declared that there can be no debate over the status of Jerusalem.
Today we declared that we recognize Jerusalem as East Palestine's capital. From now on, the capital of the state of Palestine will be Jerusalem in our eyes, and it will remain that way.
But that was the last anyone heard of an entity called Occupied Jerusalem. By the evening, a joint communique had been issued, and it is this statement that is evidence that WION's reading of the intriguing developments in the Middle East are accurate. President Trump had thrown the world a challenge by underlining the disputed nature of Jerusalem, even as he recognized very obviously Israel's sovereignty over its western part only. The Islamic world has just taken up that challenge by calling for a recognition not of unified Jerusalem, not of occupied Jerusalem, but of East Jerusalem, quote-unquote, as Palestine's capital. The American president's nuanced speech left East Jerusalem open. The Islamic world's communique has demanded East Jerusalem. Is this a next tentative step? And will there be further progress? President Trump's announcement has been condemned by many of his own allies who either failed or chose to fail to read the fine text of his speech. The Islamic world is deeply divided over Iran and the support it offers to Hezbollah, the militia organization in Lebanon too. Saudi Arabia's leaders stayed away from the emergency meeting of the OIC, as did those of its allies Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. Sunni Saudi Arabia's aggressive condemnation of Shia Iran is nothing new, nor is Saudi Arabia's clout within the OIC. But the budding relationship of Saudi Arabia and its allies to Israel, the avowed Zionist enemy, quote-unquote, is the real novelty. While the conference in Istanbul on a subject that is surely the most important for Muslims, that is Jerusalem, was taking place, Saudi television aired the weather bulletin. Saudi Arabia's Prince Salman did pay lip service through the usual utterances of support to Palestine. But in the context of President Trump and Israel, his newfound friends, he spoke of East and East Jerusalem alone. Some hours later, it was East Jerusalem, in quotes, that found its way into the communique in Istanbul. Whether it remains there will depend on the determination of the leadership, both in East and West Jerusalem. Padma Rao, WION.
And Padma Rao joins us live on the broadcast to explain us a bit better. So Padma, we all saw this move as the end, the full stop, the period mark on the peace process. But you seem to be reading something else. And in fact, the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation declared East Jerusalem as the capital city of Palestine. And Donald Trump never said he was against this. So actually this leaves a window pretty much open, isn't it?
Yes, indeed, Daniele, let's put things a bit in perspective. For the Palestinians, as far as they are concerned, they have always seen East Jerusalem as, as based on the 1949 armistice agreements between Jordan and Israel. That has been Jerusalem for them. And the PLO, again, in its independence declaration of 1998, it very clearly names East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. Now, Israel has defined East Jerusalem quite differently. Israel has defined East Jerusalem according to municipal borders, and it occupied East Jerusalem in '67, and it somehow managed to integrate it into the largest city. And at least since from 2008 onwards, even though the very first Israeli president, Mr. Chaim Weizmann, had recognized West Jerusalem, and that there is an East Jerusalem and a West Jerusalem, at least since 2008, Israel has never spoken of anything but a united Jerusalem again. Now, having said that, it was interesting indeed to see how President Erdogan followed in the footsteps of President Donald Trump initially in his initial remarks by referring to Jerusalem, just one Jerusalem. It's only after the reaction, the Saudi prince did not send a high-level delegation, Prince Salman. He sent junior officials, and he, in his remarks to the media and elsewhere, repeatedly referred to East Jerusalem. And somehow, miraculously, or perhaps not so, by the end of the one-day emergency meeting of the Islamic states in Istanbul, which was being presided over by President Erdogan, the communique that was issued didn't speak of Jerusalem in any, as one city, but as referred specifically again to East Jerusalem. So I see it pretty much as President Trump underplaying East Jerusalem, but referring to the disputed status of the city and making that indeed a caveat to his announcement of recognition of obviously West Jerusalem, and the Arabs and the Islamic conference picking that up and and sort of calling the bluff and also saying, yes, we want East Jerusalem to be recognized as the capital of Palestine. So I think there was a sliver of opportunity opened by President Donald Trump, and the Arabs have seen that sliver of opportunity and are possibly trying to work something out.